You can execute a flawless service. The floor is humming, the timing is precise, and the guests are thrilled. But if the back-end reconciliation falls apart, that operational success evaporates. When timekeeping and tip distribution go wrong, the damage compounds rapidly. Employees lose trust in their leaders, managers sacrifice hard-earned credibility, and HR inherits a cascade of multi-paycheck corrections that were entirely avoidable. Look at the structural reality of the organization. The entire SAHG payroll team consists of exactly 3 people processing data for 28 different locations across multiple states. They rely heavily on the accuracy of the data you submit. Today, we are mapping the complete operating system for how you manage that data, following the life cycle of a time card straight from the dining room floor to the final paycheck. We will break down your daily preventative controls, the strict weekly processing rhythm, and the precise mathematical protocols required when retroactive adjustments are necessary. Taking command of this administrative architecture is a clear director-track responsibility. Your precision here dictates organizational trust and legal compliance. The administrative rhythm starts the moment a meal period concludes. As the closing manager, you must review the timesheets specifically for the employees who worked during your shift. Before you leave the building, every missing punch, rejected punch, and informational warning must be investigated and resolved. You use the scheduled shift as your baseline, but if you need to edit a timesheet, you must obtain the actual clock-in and clock-out data directly from the employee in person. You do not guess. Next, audit work assignments. A tipped employee's physical job role must be assigned directly to the correct work assignment and tip point value. Trading shifts require a specific diversion. When training, an employee's hours are routed into a separate bucket, coded strictly for the flat training rate. They are completely excluded from the general tip pool distribution for the duration of their training. This protects the earnings of the fully trained staff executing the service. Catching these punch and assignment errors at the close of every shift prevents small daily mistakes from compounding into massive mathematical variances at the end of the week. Those daily microtasks culminate in a single definitive weekly deadline. The tip sheet and payroll notes are due to payroll every Monday by noon. Before hitting send, your final checklist requires confirming that 0 timesheet errors remain and every work assignment is perfectly aligned. Then comes the core financial reconciliation. The weekly tip totals on your spreadsheet must strictly match the totals in Toast POS. If there is a variance, document it in your payroll notes, explicitly stating the specific date and the exact dollar amount of the discrepancy. Supplying perfectly clean, accurately documented submissions protects that 3-person payroll team from processing deeply flawed, problematic data. Once the digital data is processed, the responsibility shifts back to the restaurant floor for the physical reality of payday. Live checks demand rigorous physical custody controls. They must be secured in the safe, distributed only after direct manager verification, accurately dated, and recorded with a mandatory employee signature on the log. This distribution process has a strict Wednesday deadline. If any checks remain unclaimed, you must actively follow up and scan those records directly to HR and payroll. Maintaining unbroken administrative custody over these physical checks is a standard operating procedure that directly limits the company's financial liability. Even with rigorous controls, there will be instances where a discrepancy is discovered after the standard payroll has already been processed. Your immediate first step is to contact the payroll department and obtain the exact processed payroll workbook for the week in question. Begin by building a correction environment. Create a new Adjustment tab, copy the process totals, and paste only values, stripping old formulas. Next, input the newly corrected tip points. Then, subtract the original processed amount from the corrected amount to determine the specific adjustment. This execution relies on a strict mathematical principle, the zero-sum rule. The total sum of all individual adjustments across every affected employee must equal exactly 0. If that total is anything other than 0, the math is wrong. A non-zero sum means you have either artificially created money out of thin air or you have lost employee funds during the calculation. Keep in mind, the written standard operating procedure contains some ambiguity regarding the specific column letters used for these calculations. Never guess. Always confirm the intended columns with payroll before executing a live adjustment. Executing this zero-sum redistribution accurately proves to your staff that management guards the money they earn. Even with rigorous controls, there will be instances where a discrepancy is discovered after the standard payroll has already been processed. There is a strict compliance threshold for these negative pay adjustments. If a discrepancy requires an adjustment that negatively affects an employee's earnings in excess of $20, you must obtain their formal written consent before any deduction can be made. If an employee files a notice of dispute reply, management has 1 week to investigate. If invalid, you must transparently explain the math. If challenged again, your role ends. Escalate all documentation to HR. They make the final determination, authorizing payroll to process the adjustment. Following this exact escalation pathway protects the organization from legal liability, while shielding you from protracted personal financial conflicts with your team. The entire payroll lifecycle operates as an interconnected ecosystem, where every stage depends on the accuracy of the one before it. Daily accuracy prevents weekly variances, and rigorous weekly reviews prevent complex retroactive adjustments. A missed punch on a Tuesday might seem minor, but left unchecked, it snowballs, corrupts the weekly submission, and creates a vulnerability spanning multiple paychecks. Your daily controls stop that reaction cold. Mastering this administrative architecture protects your team's livelihood, secures the company's financials, and provides the ultimate proof of your professional credibility as a leader.